Hi guys, welcome to my channel. If this is your first time here, my name is Deanna, and this video, as you can see by the title, is going to be my labor and delivery story. Now, here's a little disclaimer. My son is going to be 5 years old in January, so this video is like so long overdue. But throughout the years, there's been a lot of people who have asked me to do this video, and I want to just do it because I have literally these notes that I wrote years ago so that I could remember and sit down and do this type of video, and I just have never done it, so I'm gonna do it right now. I know a lot of you guys have been asking me how my labor went. I did have a C-section. This was 2013, so I'm gonna just get into it, and I'm probably just gonna read straight from these cards because a lot of it I don't remember. It was so long ago, and I was in labor for so freaking long that I don't even remember a lot of this stuff. So I'm gonna get right to it, and I'm gonna be including some pictures throughout this video so you guys can see. Okay, so my son was born January 25th, 2013, and that Wednesday, he was born on a Friday, so that Wednesday was the 23rd. At 4:30, around that time, my water started leaking. I wasn't sure what it was. I knew I wasn't peeing on myself, but it was like trickling out. It was like clear liquids, and I was kind of crampy and just feeling off. I had back pain, and at that time, my boyfriend Richard, he didn't live with me. I was still living with my parents. He was still living with his parents, but he would come spend the nights a lot with me. It was around the time that he was gonna get out of work, so he came over to my house, and my water, I was still like trickling and leaking out a bunch of liquids. My mom convinced me to go to the ER just to make sure if my water was leaking or whatever, and I had kind of a hard pregnancy, so she was just like, let's go to the ER and make sure everything is all right. So that was around 10:30. So then when I got there, they monitored me with the, all the monitors and stuff. And I was having like irregular contractions at that time. And this whole situation was really weird, but the nurse, she checked my water, and it's like little strips that they put in your like Gucci. That sounds like TMI. This whole video is about to be TMI, just so you know. But she checked my water, and it wasn't my water, like my bag of water, that was leaking. That's what the test said, but that doesn't make any sense. But she said that it wasn't amniotic fluid, but I continued to leak stuff. And around that time, I was between 1 and 2 centimeters, so I was barely dilated at all. The nurse thought that maybe I was dehydrated, which still doesn't make sense. Like, maybe contractions could be because they're dehydrated, but not me leaking out fluids. So they gave me like a bunch of juices, apple and cranberry juice, just to see if it was from dehydration, but it didn't end up going away. They started an IV on me. They couldn't find my vein, so it was like a whole big situation. I remember like 2 or 3 nurses came in, which is ridiculous because I don't know if my vein was like that now, but it's like bulging out, and you can clearly see where my vein is now. But it was hard for them to find it, and it felt weird and numb because they were putting in saline in me because they thought I was dehydrated, and it was cold, and it was just uncomfortable. I guess my baby's heart rate was like dropping in and out, and my blood pressure was kind of elevated. I did get diagnosed with preeclampsia, which is high blood pressure, during my pregnancy. So I was having a lot of weird symptoms, so that's another reason why they just decided to keep me in the hospital. I was only 37 weeks, so I wasn't full term, but kind of full term. It was enough that he could be born and be fine. So they had me lay on my left side. They put an oxygen mask on me because, like I said, his heart rate was dipping in and out. They checked my cervix, and I was like 2 to 3 centimeters, and I had bulging membranes, which sounds really disgusting, but my bag of water that he was in was kind of like hanging lower, which is probably why I was leaking. I was trying to tell them, like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, obviously it's my bag of water. So they decided to keep me for the night and observe me until the doctor came in the morning. It was like 4 a.m. and they were like, oh, the doctor will be here at like 7 or 8 in the morning. Okay. So I didn't get much sleep because when you're in the hospital, nurses come in and out, there's beeping, there's all these noises. I was on a blood pressure monitor, so that would automatically start going like every 30 minutes. And then all the beep, boop, boop, like all those little sounds and stuff. I'm a light sleeper, so I did not sleep at all. My mom and my boyfriend Richard, they were there too, and they didn't sleep at all that first night either, or at all for the next 2 days, because I was in labor until Friday. Like I said, I was around 2 to 3 centimeters in the morning when the doctor came in, so I hadn't progressed too much. And then he checked me again at 1 and I was 3 centimeters. Then around 5 they checked me and I was 4 centimeters. So I was progressing, but it was kind of very slow. They broke my water with like a long stick with a hook on it. It's like they was going fishing for my uterus or something. It was really crazy. So yeah, they broke my water. And not a lot of water came out because I'm pretty sure I leaked it all out the day before. But with every contraction, like I felt more like water coming out. It was really weird. It just felt like you just peed on yourself. It was so nasty. Then they gave me like this cervix ripening agent. That's what they called it. And that's what I wrote down because like I told y'all, I don't remember a lot of this stuff. It was in a pill form, but they gave me half of the pill, which gave me like regular contractions because like I said, I was having irregular contractions, but they were like small little contractions. And then 4 hours later, they gave me the rest of the pill. And then my contractions started to get bad. Around that time, I was 7 centimeters. And then I decided to get my epidural, which doesn't really hurt, but it feels really freaking weird. Like it's like a pinch, kind of like a bee sting. I never got stung by a bee, but that's what they told me it felt like. And I think that it does. It's like a pinch, and then they stick like the wire or the tube in your back. That's what feels weird. It just feels weird and uncomfortable. It doesn't hurt, it just feels really weird. My right foot started getting a little numb from the epidural. Then my leg, I could still sort of feel my foot and move my toes and stuff. But I guess this is just normal, but you could press the button to like get more epidural, and I would press it throughout the time that I was in the rest of the labor, but it stopped working and it wore off. The contractions that I was having weren't even bad. It just felt like bad period cramps, and also my back was hurting. Like I had really bad back labor, so most of the pain was in my back, but it just felt like I was having like a really bad period basically. But what really got me was, I guess it was Friday at 2 a.m. I started getting like this really freaking bad pain in my left hip and pelvis area. Every time I would get a contraction, it was like this excruciating pain. It wasn't contractions. It was like in my hip and my pelvis. And we were telling the nurse, and a lot of them were bitches, like they did not really help me at all through this process, and I was really irritated. I had a few nice nurses, but then the last one that I had, she was like the worst. And my mom was telling her this is not normal, she's in a completely different pain than she was yesterday. She's like, oh, that's just contractions, it's normal. No, like I'm in really bad excruciating pain. I have a high pain tolerance, so the rest of it I was okay, but that was the worst. My mom was just like rubbing my pelvis and my hip, and I would not let Richard let go of my hand. So from 2 a.m. to about 7 a.m. I was in that worst pain. The epidural wasn't doing shit for me. I was in so much pain, and I'm pretty sure it was him in the wrong position, trapped up in my pelvis or my hip, because that was so horrible. During that time, my blood pressure was spiking like crazy because of the pain. And my mom and my boyfriend, they were just trying to calm me down. And I would just say, like, tell me things, distract me. Like, I'm so grateful that they were there, because I would not have been able to do that whole thing without them too there. But they were just calming me down and talking to me like, oh, when Dion gets here, like just distracting me and trying to take my mind away from the pain that I was having. Then the doctor came in about 7 to 7:30 in that morning, and I was still having that bad pain. And the doctor, like, it was a completely different doctor than I saw before. She was like, oh, we're gonna give you Pitocin. And I was still stuck at 7 centimeters. It had been more than 12 hours of me just stuck on 7 centimeters. But she wanted to make my contractions stronger, and she came and check my cervix in 3 hours. And I was like, skirt, like, girl, I've been in this horrible pain for like 7 hours now. This hip thing, like, it had started during that night and then progressed throughout the morning. So I was in a lot of pain for a lot of hours. And first of all, I came here Wednesday night. It's Friday morning. Like, I'm not dealing with this anymore. I can't. I'm stuck at 7. Obviously, it makes sense that I'm stuck at 7 and I'm having this worst, horrible pelvic hip pain. I'm pretty sure he's stuck. Like, that's the only thing that makes sense. I told her, like, I'm done, and she was really trying to kind of bully me, and my mom was like, no, like, we're not doing this. I'm glad my mom was there, because I was so exhausted. Like, I didn't have the energy for this type of shit. Like, just do what you had to do, because imagine if I would have waited 3 more hours with that horrible pain and then he still didn't come out. Y'all, I was done. I was done. I just wanted him out. Even though I didn't want to have a C-section, I knew that that was just the best thing to do. First of all, I've been up for 2 days. I'm not going to be able to push him out after all of this. Like, this is not going to happen even if I do get to 10 centimeters. So I was just like, please give me the damn C-section. Like, just do it. I was crying. This is the part that I remember. I was going Hulk. Like, I was not having any more of this shit. Like, I started punching the bed and like crying hysterically because I was in so much freaking pain. That was the worst pain I had ever been in my life. And I was trying not to freak out my boyfriend because my mom had to leave at that time because they were prepping everything for the C-section. And Richard was just crying. I was just crying, and I was trying to stay calm, but the pain was just like taking over my body and my mind. But I could tell I was freaking him out, so I tried to stay calm. I was like just ready to be done with it, and he was really scared about the C-section. So yeah, we kind of just reassured each other, and I tried to calm down, It felt like forever while they were getting the C-section, all like getting prepared for it. It was probably maybe like 20 minutes, but it felt like 5 hours because I was in so much pain. The next thing I remember, Richard was getting in his gown, you know, all of this stuff, and they wheeled me down the hallway, and I was so tired that I was literally in so much pain and falling asleep. Like, I was dozing off, and I just remember seeing like the lights above me while they rolled me back to the room. Everything else was a blur after this. I remember feeling like a rag doll because they literally lift you up, because I had an epidural, which was not even really working anymore, so I could move my legs and I could basically feel my legs. So they just plopped me onto the table, started, you know, getting everything situated. It just feels like a movie in my head. I was dozing off. They put that blue sheet above me, and they were telling me what they were doing, but it just felt like an outer body experience. It didn't feel like it was happening to me. It felt like a movie, like it literally did. I remember the anesthesiologist, he was telling me, I'm gonna put more epidural in. And then the doctors that were about to do the C-section, they kept pinching me, and they were like, can you feel it? And I was like, yeah. And the anesthesiologist kept giving me more and more like anesthesia, and it wasn't really working. I guess I hit the cap of how much my body was going to take, and I like burned everything off. After being in labor for so long, it didn't even do anything for me anymore. I could still feel my legs, and I could move my toes during the C-section, which is not what you're supposed to be able to do. Next thing I knew, Richard was next to me again, and he was asking me if I was okay, basically. And I was just like, not really. Like, during the surgery, I could kind of feel them cutting me. It was like the worst thing ever. It wasn't as bad as I would think it would be, because I have a high tolerance for pain, but like I could feel a lot of what they were doing. It was really bad. And I was just like, I'm not okay right now. Like, it felt like a big ass sumo wrestler was stomping on my stomach. That's what it felt like. So they say you're gonna feel pressure, but I felt pressure and I also felt pain. Like, Richard was like, is this supposed to hurt her? Because I was literally like screaming kind of while they were taking him out and while they were cutting me. The anesthesiologist ended up trying to refill my epidural like 6 times, but I could move my toes while they were literally cutting me. And like I said, I was screaming while they were taking it out. And I'm pretty sure you're not supposed to feel pain, just pressure. Like, they were like, oh, you're gonna feel some pressure. So why am I screaming? Like, why am I in pain right now if I'm just supposed to feel pressure? Anyways, they pulled him out, and I heard him cry for like a little bit. Then I heard like this sucking noise, and I remember saying like, why isn't he crying? But he was crying. I was just hearing the noise of them sucking all the blood out of my like incision or wherever he came out, which is so disgusting. And I could literally see the tube with the blood like going out. Like, why? Anyways, I felt like these gushes of liquids, and I didn't know if it was like blood or fluid or what the heck it was. But anyways, the nurse came around, asked Richard if he wanted to cut the cord. And he said yeah, so he cut the cord, and he was over there with the baby, and I was so sleepy that I don't even remember really what happened next. I am gonna insert some pictures of me on the table seeing the baby for the first time, and I was so out of it, It didn't even like register in my mind. And then Richard went with Dion, my son, to the wherever he has to go, and I was there by myself. They started stitching me up, and I remember I could feel that too. Like, I could feel a lot of it. It wasn't like 100% of everything they were doing, but I could feel a damn lot of it, way more than I should have been able to. But I was so tired, like I said, that I was literally like dozing off. Like, my eyes were like this. I was so exhausted and so tired. I felt so out of it. But I could literally feel like, because you know, you have different layers in your body, obviously, so I could feel when they were stitching up like the inside of my body, like my uterus and stuff, and then I could feel when they were stitching the outside, because it was like 2 different layers of things that they need to stitch. But I wasn't screaming or anything. I was so tired that I was literally falling asleep. It was like this weight was lifted off me, like, okay, he's out, like I'm done with this, you know. Then we got back to the room, and Dion was there with my mom and Richard, and my arms were just shaking. I had so much epidural that I was literally shaking like this, like a leaf, like a crackhead. Like, it was so crazy. I couldn't even hold him because I would have dropped him. I was shaking so bad. So my mom just held him by me, kind of like put him like by me, and I just remember like touching his face, and just like, then she took him away because 1, I was like falling asleep. I was so out of it, and 2, I was just shaking like crazy. Honestly, I don't remember what happened after that. I just remember the next day them making me get out of the bed, and they make you walk, which is horrible. And I just felt like I could not walk. Like, I had no energy. I had nothing in me like to do it. So it took me forever to get out of the bed, and it just felt like I had to learn to walk again. Like, that's dramatic, but it felt like that. And then the nurse came and gave me like a bath on the toilet, because I couldn't like take a shower yet because I couldn't fully stand for a long time. And then I had to pee on the toilet, and it took me like 15 minutes to pee. Like, I was just sitting there. I had a catheter in me. I didn't mention this, but I had a catheter in me the whole time. Basically from when I got the epidural to like a day after I gave birth. Then when they took the catheter out, it's not too bad. It burned coming out, but it wasn't horrible. So that's why it took me forever to pee. Like, it took me forever to pee. But anyways, I started bleeding down there, and I couldn't put on underwear because I had to keep coming in to check my incision and to make sure I didn't have any clots in my blood and stuff. So it was just a gross ass mess, and they don't come to change your pad that as often as they should. So my boyfriend, shout out to him, like, he was a G. He held it down for me for real. Like, he was changing my pad for me like every 30 minutes. And I know a lot of guys, they would not be willing to do that at all. And those guys, you don't need to be having babies with. But yeah, I don't want to go on forever, but on Sunday I put on my own clothes, and I could actually like stand up for a little bit, maybe like 15 minutes at a time. And every day we had Dion with us until 10 p.m. We would go bring him to the nursery, and yeah, they would bring him back at 6 a.m. Me and Richard were so exhausted. Like, we looked like zombies. Like, we didn't sleep for like 2 days. From Wednesday to Friday, I didn't sleep. And then after that, you kind of had the baby in and out of your room. So we were freaking exhausted. Like, that whole situation was so crazy. And I thank God for my mom, because she went home and she got her rest, but she would come back during the day like to be with us. And my sister came, my brother came, everybody came, my father came, my best friend. We had some visitors, but my mom got her rest so that when we went home and we were discharged 5 days later, my mom was holding it down for us after that. So I went through a lot during my freaking pregnancy. I went through a lot during my labor. All of that. I was in labor for like 30 something hours. Maybe not active labor, but from Wednesday night to Friday morning, I was having contractions and I was in labor. But the last like 12 hours of my labor was the worst thing that I've ever experienced in my whole life. And this is not meant to scare you. It's just meant to prepare you. Things might not go the way that you planned. Like, I did not plan to have a C-section. I thought because I had these wide hips, he would just like, it would be a lot easier for him to come out. But he was like stuck up in there, y'all. Like, it was so serious. And I will insert some pictures of my sonogram, my last sonogram that I had. His hand is kind of like this. So I'm pretty sure he was like this in there. So that was, you know, making it so his head was stuck. Because he came out with like lumps and dips. And of course he had a cone head, because he was literally in my uterus and like crowning for like a long time. So he had a cone head. And he would sleep like this, and if you would move his hand down, he would put it right back here. So I'm pretty sure he was stuck like this, and that's why I had all that pain in my left hip side. And mind you, I had so much pain in my left hip for a long time after giving birth. So I'm pretty sure I should have got an x-ray or something, because I think that little Negro damaged me up inside. But yeah, that was my labor and delivery experience. It wasn't easy, y'all. But he's here, and he's 5, and he's happy, and he's healthy, and he was a really cute baby. So yeah, I don't know if I want to go through all of that stuff again, especially because I would probably end up getting another C-section, and that was like not a good experience for me at all. Let me know if you guys have any kids and what your experience was with that. Hopefully this video was easy to understand. I know that I was all over the place, but I'm thankful for these notes that I wrote, because if I didn't write this down, I would have not remembered anything. Anyways, I'm gonna stop blabbing. This video is already super long, and I will talk to you guys in the next video. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up and subscribe if you like what you see here in this video. Turn on your notifications, and I will talk to you guys in the next video. Peace out.